Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we are back to Hearthstone. So, today in this recording we need to get 3 victories with the Warlock. I think we can probably pull that off if we're lucky. It's April 3rd. I've decided to start announcing the date of my recording. The months has passed over, so we need to get our wild ranked play back up, or standard ranked play. Actually, we could also go to standard after we get wild up if that becomes something we want to do, at least for a few of those card sets. April Fool's Day recently happened, and that certainly messed up the news. Lots of garbage April Fool's Day thing. I wish people would just put their foot down and say, no more April Fools. Just stop. We're not going to do anything. We're either not going to post anything on April 1st and then you just stay off the internet, which is mostly what people have to do, or we're going to post news and be a reputable source completely. And we'll be the #1 trusted name in news to steal CNN's motto, which every single day of the year, not 355 days out of the year.
Happy New Year!
Here we go. We'll greet. Let's do this in return. But there are a couple of things from April Fool's Days that is weird. First of all, on April 1st, a We Happy Few movie has been announced. And it's consistently still getting released as news. And it may have come out slightly on March 31st, depending on your time zone, and so that might be part of the factor here. But it's being reported by many different news sources as something that's really happening, and so at the moment I have to kind of think that it actually is happening. It's not a terrible thought, really, because We Happy Few as a movie has a lot better chance of succeeding than it does as a game. Because as a game, even though they recently put up an update for it, and they're still working on it, they kind of did a terrible job there. Just an awful job. Don't really want to deal 4 damage to a minion, to that 1 minion. So yeah, the idea of a movie, the idea now, is it a live action movie or is it a cartoon movie? That's a good question. Because if they're just going to animate the cartoony people, which that might be the better way to do it, because I'm not sure how this is going to really play out in live action any better than it would, then yeah, maybe you could do that. Even if it does become a movie, though, it would have to be a very successful movie to then get potentially a sequel, or maybe a TV spin-off, or maybe some direct-to-video things that, frankly, you don't do too many direct-to-video things in the West. That's more of an anime thing. The direct-to-video OVAs, or original video animations. But maybe they could make a movie out of it. Maybe they could get people interested in the game that way, and then maybe by the time the movie comes out, the game will be good. This would be kind of the biggest lifesaver ever to a video game. It would be history making if somehow you could make a movie of a game that's not very good, and then the movie turns out to be good, and then it gives them enough time and motivation to make the game good and get people into the game. Like, highly unlikely that would happen because people just move on, frankly. So the idea, the idea that people would go back to a game that would be old doesn't happen that much, particularly a multiplayer game, which is kind of what I think We Happy Few is trying to be, although it feels like it should be slightly multiplayer-ish, but I don't know if it actually is. There was a ThinkGig gag for April 1st that I kind of wish existed called the swear jar, where it's not a jar that you put money in it every time you swear. It's a jar that you put money in it. It recognizes how much money you put in it, and then it swears back at you in either a positive swearing way or a negative swearing way based on the amount of money you put on it. And then it has a profanity dial so you can turn it down for little kids, so it uses swear words like darn or crap. Or you can turn it all the way up to use like the long stream soliloquies that you might get from like Andrew Dice Clay, really imaginative swears. And then it has a button to go between a female voice and a male voice. And so honestly, the only real thing that would stop you from building something like that yourself would be a slightly difficult process of figuring out how to recognize what money goes in there, what amount, and that they said add a system to know you can't trick it by putting wooden nickels in it or something like that, or tokens. It'll swear at you for that. But otherwise, if you could determine the amount or just take out that element and move on from that, you might actually be able to determine the amount of coinage by itself just by weight. If you can get a really sensitive scale at the bottom of it and zero out the weight of the jar all at the beginning, and at any time there's a new weight in it, run that against a truth table of how much a penny weighs versus a dime versus a nickel versus a dollar bill versus a $2 bill. And see, I'm not sure if a dollar bill versus a $2 bill weigh any different, or if you could get a scale that could weigh at that precision at a cheap value, and then you just need to run like a computer, like a Raspberry Pi or something under that. Or maybe you could even get it with an Arduino. But yeah, that's something that could actually be built. But that's not even having anything to do with video games. That's just something I saw that I thought was cool. Let's see, this. Going for more damage. Didn't get it. I could kill these two. And hope. Do 3 damage. There we go. Moving on the news, as we're gonna kind of quickly go through everything. Talking about things that are still being worked on and still need to be worked on. Dishonored 2 is coming out with a demo that includes the first 3 missions later this week, if you're watching this live, which honestly there's some weirdness there, definitely some weirdness there, just in the fact that they really released Dishonored 2 way too early. It was completely unfinished. Missing features, missing functions, missing abilities, and now they're trying to get people to play this game, and it's too little, too late. I mean, the demo should have come out the day the game was released, not months later. It's really, really silly. Back to April Fool's Day. Much like the We Happy Few movie, maybe that's an April Fool's Day joke. No less than 3 Japanese people claim to be leaving their jobs on April Fool's Day. Now, here's a perspective to take on this that you might not consider. If I was going to fire somebody that was high profile in a company, if I was going to try to limit the amount of news that was made by that, April Fool's Day is probably the best day ever to ask somebody to quit or to fire them. Because half the people won't believe it. If people go back and research things, they'll see that it's on April 1st and consider it a joke. So this is probably one of the best days. The other thing to think about is January, February, March, April. April 1st is the first month of the year, and quarters go 4 months. So that April, the last day of April, would be the end of the first quarter. It's not unheard of, if you're going to try to fire somebody, to fire them in a quarter before you have to report your earnings and losses, because if it's a higher up, a lot of their paychecks would very well be included in your profits and losses. So, 2 reasons why April 1st might be a logical reason to actually fire people, but who knows. So, who quit / was asked to quit / was fired? I mean, at this level, if you know their name, it's usually all the same. We reported last time Palmer Lucky was departing the company. It's about the same. Wow, he's gone up to a level 9. Wonder if the animation changes a second time. Like, this is a 6/6, and it changes a second time when it becomes a 7/7, and it changes when it becomes a different one too. So if he gets to a 10/10, I wonder if that's yet a different type of Jade Golem that will be animated. Going forward though, so Project Ozone co-producer Koji Ishitami has left, let's see, Monolith Software, and according to what was announced, 10/10 wasn't any better, and 11/11 wasn't any better. And he's going full Jade on this. I wish I had a quest that had me, give me a reason to continue playing this guy. I really should just concede, but I'll move him. I'll continue. I'll let him do his thing. I kind of want to see how high you can get the Jade things. I bet you can't get it much more than a 20 or 30, because the number of cards that you can play to get to 11, you see, is not even that much. See, he's just trying to kill all of his Jade Scorpions so that he has more of an opportunity to play more Jade Scorpions. I mean, Jade Golems. And see, as long as you play one of those cards to give you one more, then what's gonna end up happening here is I'm gonna run out of cards. But maybe I could get him down really low and somehow trick him into drawing a bunch of extra cards. But I doubt it. The next person that left, and these are all Japanese people too, but we should really learn the Japanese names of people and celebrate them. We should learn about the Japanese, the Eastern and Western producers and big people in the industry's names, so we can recognize their name a little better. I guess what we can do here is we can swap between casual, standard, I called it casual, that's about right, and wild. So the other people who left have both left from Square Enix, I believe. So that kind of also gets back into the idea that maybe very much the fiscal quarter or just the annual quarter was coming around, and Square Enix actually did intentionally lay off these two people. So Yoshinun, I don't know how I wrote this down. Yamagishi, who was the producer of Star Ocean and Valkyrie Profile series of games, has left in some pattern or another. They have left Square Enix, whether they were asked to leave or fired. I keep bringing that up, and it's only speculation on my part. And then Ishimu Kamikokuryo, which that's quite the mouthful, but usually when you see a Japanese name like that, it's actually not pronounced that way. A lot of that gets said really fast or dropped. But again, I probably mispronounced all their names. He was the art director for the Final Fantasy XIII trilogy, Final Fantasy XV, and the Third Birthday, which I think he also did something in Final Fantasy II, is what I think I saw there in a different article, because there was multiple articles like this that I end up reading and combining into one brief thing. So there you have another big chunk of news off my board erased. So only time will tell if those people actually did leave or not. I guess you kind of have to take it on face value, but it may have just been an April Fool's Day joke. This is a problem with April Fool's Day jokes, again, because you just don't know who and what language is going to read it, or when they're going to read it. So this, if it is a joke, will be on the internet forever, and Google's algorithm might be able to filter out some of that stuff, but it will still be found. Next thing I probably wanted to talk about, since we're still talking about April Fool's Day joke, there was an 8-bit Bayonetta game that came out on Steam for free. If you can still find it, please, I heavily recommend getting it, just so you can play it, if nothing else. And if you get all the achievements on it, it points to a website that has a counter that's counting down to something in 7 days. And so there's a small chance, I can be slightly hopeful, and we all can, that Bayonetta 1, possibly even Bayonetta 2, possibly both of them in a combined thing, are coming to PC. But it's a real small chance. It could be that countdown is counting down to nothing. Maybe, I mean, the other thought is it might be an announcement of Bayonetta 3 coming to the Switch. Like, that's also a possibility. So, all we know is counting down, and for all we know, it may be nothing. It may just be a long-term play April Fool's thing. It may be something that's completely not newsworthy, like they're gonna sell a $100 3D model of Bayonetta action figure or something like that. If it was to come to the PC, that would be amazing, and that I'd be one of the very first persons to buy it. I would probably break my rules right now and just intentionally buy it at full price and start trying to cover it as an extra thing. I could squeeze it after Honey Pop and it wouldn't be terrible. It's a terrible nudge there. I think Honey Pop is either over or close to being over anyways, so we could possibly have a little bit of an overlap there where I just schedule 2 videos at the same time or something like that. I don't even know what I would do, but I'm so heavily under the motivation to play Bayonetta that on PC that I would do almost anything to make sure that happened. So would be very, very much happy about that. I played the 8-bit Bayonetta for about an hour. Frankly, it's not that great of a game, and it has 2 achievements that require you to get a really high score, and since you're not walking around or doing anything, there's some issues there of it's not really that replayability. Maybe if I had a ton of free time, I'd put a couple of more hours in it. It requires pushing a lot of buttons, which Bayonetta games have always kind of required pushing a lot of buttons on the controller, but I just don't feel like the controller system that they have is the greatest. I'm gonna go ahead and not attack this turn. I need another one of these cards, and I don't think I have another one of those. I could probably look over here and see. I don't particularly use the Hearthstone deck tracker function personally, so well, very much it can be argued that it is cheating to use this because it gives you perfect memory. I turn around and don't ever use it, so if it is cheating, then I'm very bad at cheating. So the For Honor boycott was supposed to happen today, but it was apparently called off after Ubisoft responded to him. So people were threatening to boycott it for 24 hours and not play it for 24 hours because Ubisoft was not being very responsive or communicative. Ubisoft became communicative and they decided to call out the boycott. I suppose the question then gets down to, do you feel like Ubisoft just paid lip service to the angry mob of For Honor players and therefore they appeased them? Or did they actually communicate something that they're going to try to do better and try to help, and they lowered the prices a little bit but not enough? Honestly, if I was a person that cared, I would say if you're getting to the point where you're doing a strike, this is basically a union strike here, where you're gonna not play the game, you at that point need to go on to strike until a full and total agreement has been reached. I'm not sure I feel like For Honor has made a full and total agreement to fix the game in ways that makes the game good. I don't think the slight increase in steel helps that much. I don't feel that the server issues and the other things have been fixed there. But there's almost certainly a lack of passion there, obviously, since people threatened to boycott and then just got it down. I want to kind of say people are sheep, and it seems like it. Inherently, my own opinion is that For Honor is not a good game. It has multiplayer crammed in it, and nobody should play it until it fails. They rip out the multiplayer, or the multiplayer is no longer a big factor, so they're not going to try to microtransaction you. So I would wait until it fails and either becomes a complete collection, or it becomes free to play, and then for a reasonable $60 purchase, you get all of that $700 worth of DLC, cosmetic DLC, and then everybody else just free to plays and grinds. The main issue, in my opinion, here is that they've made a game that should have been free to play, charged people $60, and still had the free to play elements in it, and I don't think they did anything to even begin to imply that Ubisoft gets it or Ubisoft cares. I don't think Ubisoft does get it, nor do they care. I think they are totally intentionally just trying to rip off people. And I kind of feel bad for them because, like, that game was never really going to succeed. And so they're just kind of shoving it out there, trying to get as much money as they can. And I don't know, the free-to-play probably was the right way to go, or split it in half and have like a free-to-play multiplayer version of the game, and then on top of that have a paid single-player version. But I don't think the single-player version is probably even worth $20. I mean, I haven't heard anybody really say the single-player version is that good. And so that's kind of the problem. Here's the problem of getting news and then waiting a few days before you report it. The Rocket League Fate of the Furious movie tie-in DLC is coming out. I have written here next week, but then I crossed that out tomorrow because the article said next week, but by the time I got to reporting it, it was tomorrow. So yeah, that is a issue I'll have to keep an eye on. Is just reporting things as they're happening. Not something I really had to learn to do when I was pre-recording these, because I could say, well, this is coming out pretty soon, and just be vague, because I'm never really certain when these videos are going to come out. If anything, these videos are the recorded versions of these are going to come out even longer. And there's definitely some weirdness there too, because anybody who watches my videos live are not really going to have a reason to then turn around and watch the same videos a second time. There, I'm about to win, and we're about to end this. Here we have almost news segment, which it's not news, but it's not really news. Peter Molyneux is working on something new, but he doesn't want to talk about it. So this is almost news because of who Peter Molyneux is and how he used to just talk about games and then say games were going to have elements to them that he just thought up right there in the interview. So he was the No Man's Sky before No Man's Sky type person who would just kind of flow and think and say things wrong, and it really caused problems for his team. And he made the Fable games, and a lot of people weren't happy with the Fable games because he said a lot of things were going to be in the Fable games that weren't, or it was slightly off. And so at the core of it, he's one of those enthusiastic liars that doesn't know they're lying, but they totally are because they're just thinking. It's a side effect of schizophrenia, and I'm not saying he has schizophrenia. It's called rapid thinking or rapid imagination, and you can just instantly say, create something and have an explanation and explain why something is like that. So you could tell somebody the sky is green, and if they have that ability, which isn't much of an ability because it just leads to lying even though you don't know you're lying, where they'll go, yeah, of course the sky is green. It's green because of all the algae in the ocean is green, and it reflects it back up. And we all know the sky is not green. I hope most people know that, at least. Or they could say it's because of all the grass and trees and plants. It just reflects that back up. But he's learned his lesson. Peter Molyneux has. At least we hope he's learned his lesson. He didn't oversell the little cell phone game that he called The Long Walk that much. In fact, they tried very, very carefully to be cautious about that and marketed it in like Korea before they even brought it to America, and so and the rest of the world. And because of that, you really didn't hear anything about The Long Walk, which is not much of a game really, but so yeah, almost news. Because of who he is, the fact that he's not talking is applaudable. We should applaud when people don't shoot their mouths off and do a pull a No Man's Sky, since we all know we hated that. Anyways, that's it for this recording. As always, stay, if you're watching the live stream, there's more of that. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to friend or follow me on basically any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.